What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from Wednesday Night Warhammer with another Tyranid Tactics video. This week, we're talking all about the Malaceptor. I love this unit. He's super cool, ginormous brain, really big claws, very Tyranid-like, and he's pretty good on the table as well. In this video, I'm going to talk about some good strategies that you should use with the Malaceptor, and I'm going to talk about why you should use the Malaceptor, why I think he's a phenomenal unit. In addition to saying why he's good and everything you should do with him, I'm also going to talk about a couple of pitfalls to avoid when using the Malaceptor. If you're interested in learning more about this incredible brain bug, then hang out. Before we get into all that really cool stuff, though, take a listen to this phenomenal message from our sponsor, Secondhand Geek. Our wonderful sponsors at Secondhand Geek have done something incredible. They've given us a Leviathan box to give to you. All you need to do to enter this giveaway is check out our affiliate link down below. Sign up through the secondhandgeek.com affiliate link we've got going on right there, and you're entered. You're in the giveaway for free. After you've entered that giveaway, of course, by signing up, check out all the cool stuff they have online. Not only do they have a great inventory that is growing daily, they are actually the best place for you to get rid of your pile of potential. You got a bunch of miniatures that you just don't think you're going to get around to this edition, this year, this decade. Go ahead and post them online and see if somebody else might be super excited to get into your, 40th squad of Termagants. There could be somebody out there. Seriously, check out our affiliate link down below. Enter that giveaway. Enjoy your shopping. Enjoy your wargaming. For your next hobby purchase, consider secondhandgeek.com, your first choice for secondhand games and supplies. Thank you, Commercial Jordan. So getting into the Malisceptor Menace, first I'm going to talk about the offense. And it's kind of weird to start with the offense, but I just want to highlight the things it can do and kind of get you to understand that we're really not taking the Malisceptor for its offensive profile. But let's talk about it anyways. Offense is okay. It's got swingy shooting. It has the Tyranid shooting, D6 plus 3 blast. It's exocrine profile, except a little bit worse. With the AP, it's just only AP 2. It is a higher pip than strength 10, which is a pretty good breaking point, I will admit. Going from strength 9, comparing it to the exocrine to strength 10, that is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. And then the 3 damage is really, really nice. 3 damage is really good into the meta, I feel like right now. I think Terminators are kind of around and they're kind of scary, 8-bound and World Eaters and Custodies with their wardens and everything. I've had Maliceptors do some pretty nice work into Custodies. However, the low AP on the Malisceptor is really, in my opinion, the thing that kind of makes the Maliceptor's offense not what people necessarily think it is. AP2, I think, is not the best AP to have in the game because cover's all over the place. You can stand anywhere and get cover in 10th edition, and oftentimes your opponent is going to be doing exactly that. So AP2 going down to AP1 is really kind of tough, especially when you're going into things like Custodies or Terminators or anything like that, because they're going to have a 3-up save, and a 3-up save is pretty easy to make. Just is. So it's a little bit of a detriment to its gun. Talking about its melee profile, it either has Space Marine killing sweeps with 6 attacks at strength 8 because it's synapse, -1, 2 damage. It can kill Space Marines with that, but again, the AP just kind of makes it fall short in the offensive area of the Malisceptor. It's really kind of interesting. And then if you don't do the sweeps and if you do the big punch, it's 3 attacks at strength 10, AP2, D6 plus 1 damage. So basically, all across the board, the Maliceptor's offense is swingy at best. Your melee is going to maybe kill some things, and your shooting is probably going to do some good work, but it's still, with that low AP, is really, really not the reason why we're taking the Malisceptor. Although the offense can be good, it's really hard to rely on the Maliceptor's offense too often. The real reason why we are taking the Malisceptor is it is the true distraction carnifex of the Codex. If you're unfamiliar with the term distraction carnifex, it goes back to way earlier editions when the carnifex was this ginormous, very durable unit and armies had a really hard time destroying it. So what people would do is they would run up their Karn effects up the field as close to their enemy as fast as possible, and basically present this very durable and very huge problem for them to deal with. That's kind of the role that the Malisceptor I feel like plays in a lot of lists right now. You push it into the center of the board, you push it as close to your opponent as possible when the going is right, and then your opponent has a ginormous brain shaped bug problem right in their army. And it is because of its high durable profile. It's T11 with a 4-up invulnerable save, -1 to hit it if you're within 6, -1 to wound if you are within 6 and below half strength. I misspoke there. It's not only -1 to hit it, it's -1 to hit anything if the unit being activated is within 6 of the Malisceptor. So you can buff other units around the Malisceptor as well by providing a nice -1 to hit bubble around that beautiful brain bug. In addition, it is a unit that I feel like pretty much always has to be traded down into, meaning the Malisceptor is 170 points, right? I would bet that most of the time it is going to take more than 170 points in order for your opponent to delete this Malisceptor. Your opponent is probably going to have to dedicate 1 or 2 units in order to kill the Malisceptor, just because the swinginess of the 4-up invulnerable saves. You could roll hot and roll a bunch of 4-up invulns, and then your opponent is very, very sad. So there's a good chance that they have to activate 1, 2, or 3 units in the Malisceptor to be for sure to kill it. And then at that point, you can make sure that you're lining up some units on your side of the table, so that after they try to activate into the Malisceptor, next turn, those units can come out and really pick up everything that was trying to activate into the Malisceptor. So you would lose your, of course, beautiful brain bug, but hopefully you can pick up 2 to 3 units that are also very key to your opponent's game plan. In addition to all of that, if you're not using it as a really strong, large trade piece, you can just use it to support other units around it. And we're going to talk more about that in the combo section of this video, about what different units can support the Malisceptor as well as what the Malisceptor can support. But it really becomes this phenomenal piece in your Tyranid army. Talking about some Malisceptor tactics, this image is kind of picturing the flow of the game and how I think it is best for the Malisceptor to activate. Basically, you want to push the Malisceptor at your opponent and enjoy. So let me talk through all of these arrows and things. It probably looks like a bunch of gobbledygook right there, but let's take a look at it. Okay, so the green arrows are representing the first units to move. So first thing, I'm going to have my Lictor go up and kind of take that objective, right? And you can do this with just a regular scoring unit as well, if you do like gargoyles or gaunts or etc. Your Lictor is going to go up and take that objective, and while your Lictor is going up and taking the objective, you're going to push your Malisceptor into that little hidey hole or something like that. Pretty much every single terrain setup should have a staging area like this if you're on GW terrain, but just be careful with lines of sight and angle of fire, of course. And then, assuming that your opponent is going to go out and kill your Lictor because they don't want you to have primary, then if you look at the red arrow with that Malisceptor, he's going to be able to then get onto the point, probably charge whatever was on the point, killing your beautiful Lictor, doing some damage to that unit as well, and then just having a Malisceptor into the center. And this is where the Malisceptor really shines. If we're an invasion fleet, then you can place as many defensive buffs on it as possible. I've set up a nice fairy tale Christmas land where I have a flying hive tyrant relatively close to the Malisceptor. So that means that anything that charges Malisceptor, there's a potential for that unit to also get -1 attacks from that winged hive tyrant, which is, I don't know if you've used that debuff too much, but it is phenomenal. I actually really like the winged hive tyrant. The -1 attack on any of the melee units, and then of course the Malisceptor has its own aura of -1 to hit. So melee armies with -1 to hit and -1 attack, that is just a disgusting debuff that will make the Malisceptor very durable. In addition, again, if we're invasion, then of course slam the 5-up Feel No Pain on the Malisceptor, and it then becomes this very difficult unit to get rid of. So thinking about and explaining all those debuffs, if you explain that to your opponent, then I bet you your opponent is either going to do 2 things. One, it's going to ignore the Malisceptor, and then you'll get primary, and you're going to be able to push your Malisceptor even further up into your opponent's lines, that's a win, 100%. or your opponent is going to have to dedicate 3 to 4 maybe units into this Malisceptor. I don't know, it depends on what army they are playing, in order to for sure kill the Malisceptor and remove it from the table. Then we get to look at these blue arrows. You've set up your exocrine at the bottom right there, so it is very safe behind the smaller terrain piece, and of course there's no lines of sight that can get it from the bigger terrain pieces. Your exocrine could just very easily move up and shoot whatever is at the center right there, and then easy peasy. Same thing with the Tyrannofex. Tyrannofex can move up, probably pivot, and maybe get an angle onto that objective in the center. If not, he's still able to activate on the side objectives and threaten some pretty cool stuff while being, a safe bubble of Maliceptor deterrence in the middle. And then lastly, I've set up a Broodlord with, of course, 10 Genestealers right there with the blue arrow. They will be able to easily run up and activate into anything else that activated into the center. So if you're able to use your Malisceptor like this, you can really set up for a phenomenal counterattack. The Malisceptor is a good piece for your opponent to kill. Like if they are able to kill a Malisceptor, that is really good for them. However, you need to be able to tell them how and when they can kill it. So by doing this and by lining up a whole bunch of counterattacks after they delete your beautiful brain bug, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be able to actually trade up from losing your Malisceptor. Talking about some detachments that the Malisceptor is good in, there's a lot of synergy out there in the Tyranid Codex for this brain bug. But also, he's kind of a unit that you can just slot into pretty much any detachment, and he's probably just going to be good because of his very high defensive profile and his ability to give out that -1 to hit aura all of the time within 6 inches of it. He's just really good. But 3 detachments that I think he really, really excels at is the first, Invasion. The 5-up Feel No Pain on this Malisceptor can make people very, very sad. 4-up Invuln is really hard to activate into and consistently delete, of course. So if you do a 4-up Invuln and then put a 5-up Feel No Pain on it as well, it really enhances your odds of survival with the Malisceptor and can be pretty frustrating to activate into, honestly. In addition to the lethals that you can get from Invasion Fleet, as well as the sustain, can kind of counteract the low AP that the Malisceptor has. So if you have things that automatically wound, or if you have things that are giving you more shots, of course, that is going to, offset the detriment that AP2 is in the current meta. In addition, Synapse really matters in Invasion Fleet. And I know it seems like kind of a no-brainer, but a really big base like what the Malisceptor has, being able to give Synapse to even more units, can really help things like your Hormigons or your Gargoyles or whatever, just make sure they do the wonderful strats that are in Invasion Fleet. If you want to give your Hormigons a 5-up Feel No Pain or whatever, then you are able to do that. Or if you want to allow, maybe you have a skirmishing unit of Raveners. You want to allow those Raveners to do a really nice overrun. You could do that, and the Malisceptor is going to be there to help you. Next up in Nexus. Synaptic Nexus, I really like this detachment. It has really, really powerful stratagems. If only it had an actual detachment rule. Oh, we'll talk about that a different time. But anyways, things that make the Malisceptor work really well in Synaptic Nexus is, of course, it's Synapse. Everything's going to benefit from the Malisceptor being Synapse, and it's just going to be another unit to allow to pass off those synaptic buffs to the rest of your army that maybe is not Synapse. Specifically, though, for the Malisceptor, the fallback, shoot, and charge is really something that really helps the Malisceptor. When we talk about the pitfalls of the Malisceptor later on in this video, one of them is being tied up. And if you're in Synaptic Nexus, 1 CP, fallback, shoot, and charge is really, really nice, especially on the defensive profile like a Malisceptor. A lot of times your opponent will be like, oh, I'm just going to tie that up and ignore it. Well, you can't in Synaptic Nexus. So 1 CP, fallback, shoot, and charge, very, very nice. Really, really good. My favorite stratagem probably in the Tyranid Codex is Irresistible Will. And the Malisceptor is a great target to have that on because it has a very big base. It is Synapse, of course, and then it's going to be able, maybe if you turn it sideways, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of units be within 6 of the Malisceptor, and then they're really going to be able to activate very well into whatever the Malisceptor is looking at. So Irresistible Will is just phenomenal. And then last but not least, of course, just mentioning again, he's Synapse. He has a very big base. He's a very big model. So being able to project that 6-inch Synapse just a little bit further than something like a Neurolictor or a Hive Tyrant is something that is definitely worth mentioning in definitely worth having in your army for sure. Now, the detachment that I've been most excited about with the Malisceptor recently is honestly Crusher Stampede. So we know, and I've been talking about it a lot, the Malisceptor has a very high defensive profile, and that means that there's a pretty good chance that your opponent's going to activate it, and not 100% of the time, there's a pretty good chance that your opponent will activate into the Malisceptor and not be able to kill it in the first round of activating it. That means your Malisceptor is going to get at least +1 to hit. If you have not activated a Malisceptor with hitting on twos instead of threes, oh my gosh, you have not played Tyranids yet. It feels amazing. And then you can set it up with the Exocrine, of course, targeting whatever the Malisceptor is shooting at beforehand. Then the Malisceptor is going to get hit on twos and reroll ones. That's just a phenomenal combo. It's one of the reasons why I really, really love playing a Malisceptor and Crusher Stampede. In addition, it's like one of those units that you also really don't need to buff too much, especially if it's going to get +1 to hit. You can just run it up the table, and the Malisceptor is going to be able to function on its own. It's not a unit that you have to have 3 or 4 units going along with it to, do its job. It kind of just does it on its own. And Crusher Stampede really likes units like that because it is, I feel like, our most go wide, quote unquote, MSU detachment of the Codex. MSU being those minimum sized monsters. So, anyways, it really carries the buffs of Crusher Stampede as well. In addition, the ignore cover strat that Crusher Stampede has for 1 CP, I think it's like Swarm Guided Salvos, really helps that AP2 again, just to make sure that your opponent has -2 to their armor save. Really nice. Some unit combos that are really, really nice to run alongside this ginormous brain bug. First up, I really like a Pyrovore. It's only 40 points, and you can just run them up next to the Malisceptor, maybe hide them a little bit. And then when your Malisceptor is going out to activate into something, just have your Pyrovore go out, flame whatever it's activating first, and to get rid of cover. Make sure that we don't have to worry about 3-up Terminators, 3-up Custodes. The worst case scenario, you're trading a Pyrovore to allow for a little bit of extra AP onto the Malisceptor. I think that's pretty good. And it's not very much of an investment, only 40 points, just running up that little dog-looking guy and having a good time. Then the obvious one, if you're playing Tyranids right now, you're probably playing X amount of Exocrines, unless you're Vanguard or something like that. So just having an Exocrine out there to help the Malisceptor hit better, it's always going to be relevant, and it is always a good combo. So shoot with your Exocrine first, of course, and then activate with your Malisceptor. Get those reroll ones, get those sustain and lethals a little bit more often if you're in Invasion Fleet. Have a great time, The Norn Emissary. I talked about this in great detail in my Norn Emissary unit spotlight. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Odds are, if you like the Malisceptor, you're going to love the Norn Emissary. But the Malisceptor walking alongside a Norn Emissary is very strong. It's very powerful. It's going to give -1 to hit anything that's trying to activate into the Norn or the Malisceptor. And that's going to be tough, at least if they're within 6 inches. And then it also presents a really, really hard question for your opponent. Are they going to activate into the Malisceptor or the Norn Emissary, or are they going to make a bad decision and split attacks? That combo is just absolutely horrendous for any melee armies. Honestly, I think just the Malisceptor just demolishes melee armies in general because of the -1 to hit and the high durability. But if you put a Norn on its objective next to a Malisceptor, your opponent's going to have a really, really bad time. And if you really can set up this dreamland of defensive buffs, throwing in a Winged Hive Tyrant, this is probably my favorite defensive buff combo with the Malisceptor. -1 to attack and -1 to hit against melee armies is just going to make them very, very, very sad. The Winged Hive Tyrant -1 to attack ability, I feel like is kind of slept on. I'm going to be honest. It's way better than -1 to hit. It's way better than -1 to wound. It is literally immediately taking damage out of your opponent's hand. Anytime with when you can for sure, decrease the odds without any kind of, chance of them overcoming that, it's really nice. So literally taking -1 attack off of every single model in a unit is just phenomenal. It's better than -1 to hit, better than -1 to wound, and I think it stacks beautifully with the Malisceptor. Before I talk about a couple of lists that I think you should try with your Malisceptor, and I think they're a lot of fun and very, very competitive. Well, just a couple things to take note of to make sure that you're able to use your Malisceptor efficiently and for the best course of action, of course. The 4-up invulnerables can be swingy. Just like I've been talking about throughout the entire video, that it is hard for your opponent to kind of predict how many 4-up invulns you're going to make or not make. It's the same thing for you. Every single save is going to be basically a coin flip. And so if you flip all of your coins and you flip them all badly, then your Malisceptor can be deleted very quickly, honestly. Probably not most of the time, but I've had some times where my Malisceptor has just evaporated off the table. So although I do think statistically it takes quite a bit to take down a Malisceptor, don't have your entire game plan hinge on your Malisceptor living for turns and turns and turns and turns. Understand that if they're activating into the Malisceptor, there's a chance that it dies just like anything in Warhammer 40k, of course. And the melee isn't the best. The melee really is there to just be annoying and not let your opponents just freely wander the table. The Las Cannon Claws can be very, very swingy. I've had the Las Cannon Claws just delete demon princes and stuff like that. One time I killed Angron with like just two Malisceptor attacks. He was a little bit lower, but Malisceptor went hard and just deleted an Angron, which was phenomenal. That was really cool. But it's not always going to happen, The only 3 attacks and then still a d6+1 damage profile is swingy, and it's not for sure going to kill things. It's not for sure going to activate the same way every single time, of course. So be wary. And in addition, even with the sweep profile, AP -1 really is not where you want to be at, even if you're activating just into Space Marines or Space Marine Scouts. Scouts can make 5-up saves, and it's happened before. And if they really want to keep their Scouts alive, they can Armor of Contempt, and there's a pretty good chance that they do stay alive. So watch out for that. Blast weapons can be a liability, and Tyranid players, I feel like, kind of struggle with this sometimes because all of our really good weapons with our Exocrines and our Malisceptors are blast. And if your opponent just runs at you and throws something at the Malisceptor, it can be pretty difficult. Your target selection is going to be a little bit less than what it would be before if you were not running a blast weapon, especially if they just run like a monster or vehicle into a Malisceptor. Then the rest of your army can't activate very well into that thing that's tied up in the Malisceptor unless you fall back with a Malisceptor. That's not necessarily what you want to be doing all of the time. So be wary of that. If you feel like there's a unit or something that your opponent could just tie up your Malisceptor and really benefit off of, maybe screen it a little bit more and maybe make sure that your Malisceptor is activating in a way that benefits your strategy the most. Last but not least, just a very friendly reminder of anything in Warhammer 40k. Anything with a wounds characteristic can be destroyed. If it has wounds, then those wounds can be set to 0. Kind of touched on it a little bit before at the beginning of this slide, but don't hinge your entire game plan on any unit in your army just staying alive over and over and over and over through the course of the game. You're gonna have a bad time. First list we're talking about is my standard invasion fleet list that I've been running with for quite some time. Just like this archetype of some monsters, following some really nice efficient scoring units and some really good screens makes this for a very good cohesive list. Just going over it again, we have the Broodlord. He's going to be attached with 10 Gene Stealers, of course. Hive Tyrant with adaptive biology. And he'll be at the double melee, so Bone Sword, Lash Whip, and then the Scything Talons. Just kind of the build that I've been liking so far. And then Neuro Tyrant, because in Invasion Fleet, you really do kind of want a Neuro Tyrant to pass out that Synapse. Double Gargoyles. I really like Gargoyles. If you're a viewer of the channel, I really love my Gargoyles. Then Biovore, because you're playing Tyranids. Triple Exocrine, Gene Stealers with that Broodlord. Double Lictor, Malisceptor, Neurolictor, Tyrannifex, and then this last slot, I've actually kind of toyed with the idea. It used to be a second Tyrannifex. I'm trying out just a 6-man Zoanthropes instead of the Tyrannifex. I'm not sure I love it, but I think it's worth some testing. It's kind of in that same spot of the Tyrannifex now that the Tyrannifex is 200 points. So there's an argument that in Invasion Fleet, having the 6-man Zoans to allow for sustained or lethal with that blast profile is pretty strong. In addition, it provides for a really good Overwatch with the Neuro Tyrant, especially in Invasion. You get to stand next to the Hive Tyrant, and then you can get lethals and sustain depending on what you're activating into. It can be a very strong combo. But the reason why the Malisceptor fits so nicely in this list is kind of previous slide that I was talking about with the flow of the battlefield uh, earlier on in the video, is it really is a nice unit to back up these small scoring units with your gargoyles. If you place your gargoyles into the center, stage your Malisceptor behind them, your opponent comes up, tries to kill your gargoyles, your Malisceptor can go up, charge that unit, and then maybe also shoot into a different unit. Then it can activate into 2 units that way. And then you can stage behind your Malisceptor your Gene Stealers or your Exocrines or Zoanthropes or Tyrannofexes, etc. And then whatever they activate into that Malisceptor, then you have a really good chance of just punching back, and it's bad time for your opponent. In addition, with Invasion Fleet, again, the 5-up Feel No Pain is just a disgusting combo in the Malisceptor, and it can make for your opponent, again, have a bad time. This list is very spicy, and I love it. You can actually see it in action in one of our recent live stream battle reports. It's Tyranids, Crusher Stampede versus World Eaters. If you want, I don't want to toot my horn too much, but if you want to see a masterclass on how to handle playing against World Eaters, definitely check out that video, because I do a very, very good job of dictating the flow of the battle and really being able to activate into the World Eaters efficiently and through a really good game. It was a lot of fun, of course, too. But anyways, getting into this list, characters, we just have one Hive Tyrant, an Ominous Presence, and he is just going to be double melee as well. And I'll talk about later on why specifically double melee in this list. Then we have 2 squads of Gargoyles, because Gargoyles are really good. I just like having at least 2 of them in most lists. And then next up in my other data sheets, I have a Biobor, triple Exocrine, triple Lictor, because in Crusher Stampede, we want to have as many small, efficient units alongside our monsters in order to activate and do secondary still, of course, because we still need to score points. And then a double Malisceptor. They're really good in this detachment because they can just go out, activate on their own, probably get +1 to hit pretty easily, and then they're really tough for your opponent to take down. So they're a very good unit in Crusher Stampede, in my opinion. And then a Pyrovore just to help with removing that cover in case you don't want to spend the CP to ignore cover. Then you have a Pyrovore right there to activate and then allow for your AP2 to really still be AP2. Double Tyrannofex with both Rupture Cannons, just because you want some anti-tank punch. Always in Tyranids, it can be tough for us to kill high armor, and so Tyrannofex are going to be really good with it. And then the spice of the list. Haven't tried this combo. It's a 6-man Tyrant Guard to go alongside with the Hive Tyrant. The reason why you want the 6-man Tyrant Guard is because of one of the stratagems that allows all rerolls to hit. You also want to equip the Tyrant Guard with the Crushing Claw so that they are also twin linked. So with the Hive Tyrant and the Tyrant Guard, you spend 1 CP. They are a monster unit. That stratagem does not check for monster models, so the entire unit is going to get reroll hits. While your Tyrant Guard are going to reroll hits, which they really need because of they hit on 4s. They'll all reroll hits, and then they will also reroll wounds, which is pretty phenomenal. In addition, in the edge case that you get down to 2 Tyrant Guard and then Hive Tyrant, then that unit will be at below half strength. So in Crusher Stampede, it just checks the unit, not models, of course, in that argument. And then your Hive Tyrant's going to be +1 to wound. The Tyrant Guard won't be +1 to wound because they are not monsters, but the Hive Tyrant will be +1 to wound and +1 to hit with that Tyrant Guard squad. So it's a funky combo, but it's pretty sweet. That's our unit spotlight video on the Malisceptor. I hope you enjoyed it. I really love this unit. I hope you do too. Check out secondhandgeek.com. Of course, another reminder, if you haven't entered the Leviathan box giveaway, check out our description down below. Sign up through our affiliate link, and then boom, you're in. You could get a free Leviathan box. It'd be pretty sweet. That'd be pretty awesome. In addition, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It's been, the support that we've been getting recently is just phenomenal, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging with me. I'll see ya Wednesday. Bye.